The moment the soft glow of the restaurant lamps reflected in 11-year-old Emily Carson's eyes, billionaire Ethan Carson felt something inside him tremble. He didn't know why. Not yet. He only knew that tonight felt different, heavier, almost like the air itself was whispering a warning. He had taken his daughter out for dinner hundreds of times before, but tonight she seemed oddly quiet, studying him with a seriousness far beyond her age. And then, just as he lifted his glass of sparkling water, she parted her lips and said the single word that froze his heartbeat and sent a strange chill rushing across his skin. Dad. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and emotional stories that change lives, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps more people discover these meaningful stories. Ethan slowly set the glass down, suddenly aware of how loud the restaurant felt. Clinking plates, murmuring voices, soft jazz humming from hidden speakers. For a man who built empires, controlled markets, and made decisions worth billions in minutes, it was unsettling how one word from his little girl could shatter his confidence. Emily wasn't the type to seek attention or drama. She spoke with thoughtfulness, always choosing her words carefully. And tonight, she looked as if she carried the weight of a secret too heavy for her small shoulders. He watched her fingers trace circles on the linen tablecloth. Nervous, hesitant. It reminded him of how she used to draw on fogged windows during long drives with her mother years ago. Back then, their world had been perfect, whole. But life had ways of tearing even the strongest families apart, and 3 years after the tragic accident that claimed his wife, Ethan was still trying to piece together what remained. His company soared, his wealth multiplied. But his relationship with Emily, it always felt like something he never fully understood, like a puzzle with missing pieces he didn't know how to find. As they sat in that elegant restaurant, surrounded by people who recognized his face but not his struggle, Ethan felt more alone than ever. He had been a provider, a protector, a man who could buy anything, except the closeness he wished he had with his daughter. Emily looked up at him again, eyes shimmering as though she were gathering courage from somewhere deep within, and he braced himself for whatever truth waited on her tongue. For a moment, the world around them softened, blurred even, until it felt like it was just the two of them in a bubble of fragile silence. Ethan thought she might ask for a trip, a special gift, or maybe confess something about school. But the gravity in her eyes told him this was bigger, much bigger. Something that had been silently growing, waiting for the right moment to bloom, or break. And as the waiter placed their food on the table, Emily inhaled sharply, as though she realized she couldn't hold it in any longer. The words she spoke next would not just surprise him, they would change everything he believed about himself, about fatherhood, about what truly mattered in the world he tried so desperately to control. Ethan had always believed he was doing his best. He built his fortune from nothing, pushed through failures and betrayals, and rose to become one of the wealthiest men in the country. Every interview, every article, every award praised his brilliance and discipline, but none of those things mattered during lonely nights when his daughter was asleep and the echoes of his own emptiness filled the mansion halls. He always assumed Emily was fine, that she understood the demands of his work, that she knew he loved her, even if he wasn't always present. But as he watched her small hands tremble, he realized he might have been wrong. Terribly wrong. Their dinner sat untouched, steam drifting upward only to fade away, much like the moments he'd missed in her life. He noticed her shoulders rise with a shaky breath, and he saw something he rarely saw on her face. Fear. Not the childish fear of shadows or thunderstorms, but the deeper kind, the kind that comes from loneliness, confusion, and the desperate hope that someone will listen. She continued speaking, her voice barely above a whisper, telling him that she often ate alone, took care of herself, and spent holidays waiting for him to come home. Ethan felt each word like a blow to his chest. She told him she knew he worked hard, that he provided everything she could ask for materially. Beautiful clothes, the best school, a room filled with toys and books. But none of it mattered when she felt like she didn't really have a father, just a guardian who visited in small fragments of time. Ethan felt his throat tighten, shame swirling inside him. He had always believed that providing luxury was enough, that children felt loved when they lacked nothing. He had been blind to the truth that his daughter didn't want wealth. She wanted him. She wanted a father who sat with her during dinner, someone who helped with homework, someone who listened to her stories from school and noticed when she was sad. She wanted late-night talks, weekend laughter, and ordinary moments he had always considered insignificant, but to her meant everything. She explained how she watched other families at school events, parents who held their children's hands, cheered during performances, and took pictures as if nothing else in the world mattered. She said she used to look for him in crowds, hoping he'd come even just once, but he never did. And slowly, she stopped hoping. The restaurant around them blurred as Ethan's vision grew hot with tears he rarely allowed himself to feel. He realized, painfully, that he had missed more than birthdays and recitals. He had missed chances to understand her, moments that would never come again. All those years spent building his empire suddenly felt meaningless compared to the single truth shining through his daughter's trembling voice. She had felt alone, even when living in a mansion. Ethan wanted to speak, to apologize, to explain, but she went on gently, almost as if she wanted to spare him. She told him she didn't blame him. She knew being a single father was hard. She knew losing Mom had broken him in ways she didn't fully understand. But she also confessed something that shattered him completely. She thought he didn't love her enough to choose her over work. It was in that moment Ethan's heart cracked open. He realized that every decision he'd made, from late-night meetings to international flights, had sent her the message that she came second. And though that was never his intention, the impact was the same. She felt unimportant, unseen, unloved. He leaned forward, placing his hand over hers, feeling the warmth of her small fingers and the fragility of the connection he'd nearly lost. In that single touch, he felt the truth of everything he had been running from. Grief, guilt, responsibility, and most of all, the desperate need to make things right. His daughter wasn't asking for wealth or adventures. She was asking for a father who was present, emotionally and physically, not occasionally, not when convenient, but always. As the night deepened, they talked more honestly than they ever had before. Emily admitted she had been afraid to say anything for a long time because she didn't want to disappoint him. She thought he might get angry or feel burdened, and she never wanted to be a burden to anyone, especially him. Hearing that nearly broke him again. Ethan felt something shift inside him, a transformation born from love and regret. He realized he had been living in survival mode since his wife passed away, burying himself in work as a way to cope. But in doing so, he had left his daughter navigating her own grief completely alone. And now, sitting across from her, he understood he had one final chance to rebuild what he had neglected, not through gifts or grand gestures, but through daily presence, consistent love, and the willingness to be vulnerable. He promised her, right there in that dimly lit restaurant, that things would change, not someday, not after one more meeting, but now. He would reclaim his place in her life, not as a distant provider, but as her father, the one she deserved, the one she needed, the one he truly wanted to be. Emily's eyes softened, and for the first time in a long while, he saw a spark of hope. A small smile formed on her lips, fragile yet beautiful, like the first sunrise after a long winter. They finished their dinner slowly, savoring the simple act of being together. For Ethan, it felt like rediscovering a part of his heart he thought he'd lost forever. The drive home was quiet, but peaceful. Instead of thinking about upcoming deals or unread emails, he listened to her talk about school projects, her favorite books, and a new friend she had made. It was ordinary, and it was perfect. When they reached the house, he didn't retreat to his office as usual. Instead, he sat with her in the living room, letting her show him drawings, stories, and memories she had kept hidden away, waiting for a moment like this. They talked until she fell asleep on the couch, her head resting on his arm. Ethan carried her to her room, tucked her in gently, and kissed her forehead, the first time he'd done so in longer than he wanted to admit. Standing in the doorway, he realized something profound. Wealth might build skyscrapers, but love builds families. And for the first time in years, he felt like he finally understood what truly mattered. As Ethan transformed his life, cutting down working hours, attending every school event, and spending real, uninterrupted time with Emily, he found a joy he had forgotten existed. Their bond grew stronger, filled with laughter, late-night talks, and healing. And slowly, the ghost of grief that had haunted them both began to fade, replaced by a new beginning built on love, understanding, and second chances. If this story touched your heart, please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your engagement helps keep these emotional stories alive for more people to experience. Before we end, I have a special request. Comment below what part of this story moved you the most. Thank you for watching, and may your relationships always be filled with love, forgiveness, and second chances.